Good morning, everybody. Hang on just a minute. I'm sending an email text. And I'm going to turn that off to cut down that echo. Good morning. Good morning, Carol. Good morning, Brenda. Good morning, Miss Rhonda. I don't think, well, I know. I just got a note from Mr. Zorns. He's not going to make it this week again. I kind of wish he'd tell me a little earlier. And Tina won't be in today because it's the Utica St. Patrick's Day parade. What did I just hear? Well, there he is.
Yeah, but just for a few minutes.
Well, I didn't think you'd be here.
I'm just stepping in to tell everybody, hey.
Oh well, there you go.
We got fence rebuilding to do, and I'm burning the biscuits now. I'm not.
Oh, that's gonna say if you're burning biscuits, you better step two.
I laughed, and my wife said, "That is not funny."
Well, no, not usually.
No. Anyway.
So you say Sammy's there, or he's coming over?
They're down at mother-in-law's place on their way. So, good morning, everybody.
Did you get your design figured out?
My design, yeah, for the water gap.
Yeah, for your water gap.
Yeah, I jury rigged it, keep the horses home, and then we're constructing the real deal today. So, although we're going to get wet, both from below and above, I think.
Oh, it's supposed to rain.
Pretty rainy outside, so.
Well, the real question is, what's the
might as well be wet. If you're going to get in the river, you might as well get wet.
Well, that's true. What's the temp?
It's fine. It's above 40.
You ain't breaking ice.
That's not normal, but it's above 40, so it's fine.
It went from 80 here. It went from 80 here to in the 30s again. So
for a high?
No, it'll probably I don't know what the high is, but it's in the 30s this morning. I think it was. I mean, it's dropped considerably. I mean, it was in the 80s earlier in the week, and now it's probably in the 40s or 50s. I don't know what it's supposed to be today, but it's dropped a lot.
We're supposed to be
48.
I think we're supposed to be darn near or at 70 on Wednesday here.
It may be back up to that here by the anyway. Good morning, Nico.
And I was looking at my Facebook post from last year. Yeah. And in March, I sent out a post of snow we had in mid-March, and it had been 70 or 80 a few days before that, and then we had like 6 inches of snow on the ground. So,
well, here's the roller coaster.
It happened. It's happened before.
Tomorrow it's supposed to be 69. Monday 61. Tuesday back in the 30s for high. And then
Wow.
Wednesday it's going to creep back up to 50. So it can't hardly make up its mind. Oh, and
Holy
it's supposed
bucket.
to be down in the 20s on Tuesday night.
Sweet.
Yeah.
Maybe if it'd kill a tick,
Do what?
just one tick. If it'd kill one tick, it'd be
Well,
worth
that's true. That might be worth it. That's true.
it. Yeah, I don't know what we're going to do. It's going to be up and downy. It's March. It's the most useless month of the year. It's too cold to fish and too hot to hunt.
Yeah, I know. Rhonda said it's supposed to be in the 80s. It hit 83 down in Georgia this week. Good morning, Jason Thibodeau.
Mr. Thibodeau. Good morning.
Probably
sir.
nice and warm in Louisiana.
We're I don't know what we're gonna do. It's gonna, like I said, it's gonna be up and down. Right now we look like the daggone Dust Bowl's starting up again, buddy.
You that dry?
Oh God.
I thought you'd got some
We've
rain.
been having Shauna, what was the wind speed in Cheyenne?
Oh, well, there is that. Yeah. I forgot about that.
104 miles an hour in Cheyenne. 104. It blew 65, 70 mile an hour here all week. Well, not all weekend. During the latter part of the week, knocked a bunch of limbs down. People are videoing the Dust Bowl. It's like there's just dirt blowing up at Crowheart up on the res. It looks awful.
Oh, it blows like that.
We're gonna you guys are gonna get some dust, so get ready.
Well, when it blows like that, it don't take it too long to dry everything back out.
Yeah, it's bone dry.
Good morning, Mary Ellen.
I'm glad I lived down in the river bottom, because otherwise, I mean, it's really dusty. The kids couldn't go outside in Timmer. They had to keep the kids inside during recess because of blowing sand and dust.
Wow.
Yeah, we're in a.
Well, we've
been getting a little bit of moisture, but parts of the state haven't been getting any.
Well, I didn't see it.
We got big fires already going. The West is already eat up with fires, so.
I guess it was Wednesday night or Thursday morning early. Kelly called me and sent me a picture of this. This is her house.
Oh no.
Yeah,
that's on her house?
Well, it's on the house. Both their cars.
Both their cars? Oh my God.
Basically knocked the garage. Their house has a garage on one end of it. Basically, it crushed the garage and both cars, probably totaled both cars.
Oh gosh.
And I hadn't talked to her today. She was trying to do one more
tornado, or just the wind blew the tree over?
Just the wind. She sat on their sorry, let me fix it. She sat on their security camera. And it looked like there was a big flash of light. She thought maybe lightning hit it, and maybe it did. I don't know, but it was the only tree they hadn't got to yet. They were cutting trees back and trimming because a year or two ago they had a small pine come through the other end of the house, or just a corner of it, and so they'd gone through and been cleaning out and cutting trees and cutting back stuff, and as the last tree they were getting ready to do, and it didn't.
And she told him last week to cut that tree.
She didn't say that, but she might have.
I've been to that rodeo.
Oh, that's a good one. I'll have to ask her about that. That's true. I don't know. She was pretty down about it. They were.
Yeah, that's a bummer.
Trying to figure out.
I don't mean to be making light of it, but it.
No, it's no. You're not
Laughing to cry.
That's true. They were. She had a show in Asheville last night for her art stuff again, and she went ahead and one of her friends took her to that because she needed
Don't have a car.
a little extra cash to help pay for the, you know,
Yeah.
because she figured they were going to need it.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's let's see here. Hang on a minute. There's what the house looks like. The end of the house. That's the garage. You can see right over here are her cars and trucks.
That's a tree that came down right on the end of the garage there and
Yeah,
mashed both their vehicles.
I thought I had. Look, it was a pretty big tree. This is a
It
root.
looked like a big old oak tree or something.
It
You
was.
see the roots are rotten in it.
Yeah, that's what I told her. It's I've seen that before. It's kind of what, for lack of a better term, root rot. Oak tree. We have a root rot problem back here, and
And then
they can look
low
perfect,
down.
and I saw a beautiful oak. It was probably this big around, 3 or 4 feet in diameter on a couple years ago when I was still working. It had come down right off the end of this house. Didn't hit anything, thank goodness, but it was still down. And it looked. If I'd walked up to that tree, I would have told you wasn't anything wrong with it. It just looked perfect. But when it fell over, all that's left alive, I guess, is like the phloem and
Just like a ball at the bottom, and the
yeah.
roots are all dead. That's what happened to that big lime tree on Dad's place right by the highway. It was, it was a big old white oak that was probably 500-600 years old, and it fell down right across the highway.
Oh yeah.
Yeah,
Wow.
I probably told this before, but a woman drove up to it and stopped there and started honking her horn.
That's gonna help.
Right. It was completely blocking the highway, and it was a giant tree. It was probably 8 feet in diameter. And it just
Who came? Did the highway department?
And the highway department, Dad called the highway department like, hey, like 139 is completely blocked.
Did the tree listen?
But
No,
she literally drove up to it and started beeping her horn like it was going to get up and get out of its her way,
like it was going to move itself. Some people
or the old horse farmer up the road was going to come down there and get her, save her life.
Yeah. Some people
he just stood out there and laughed.
Some people don't think these things through very much.
No.
But anyway, they got to get that fixed. They lost some other odds and ends. Nothing really important. For example, I had some artwork and a few books in the garage that I just purchased. She salvaged those. She made sure those were okay. But
it didn't get your first printing of the Bible didn't come out. It's still alive.
It's still alive. Anyway, that's they're working on that. They gotta figure out what they're gonna do. I'm hoping that the cars. I don't think hers is gonna be probably not fixable at all. His doesn't look like it's as bad, but I know it had a sunroof in the top. I know it broke that out, and I think she said it popped the windshield out. So, I mean, I know there's at least that much broken, and it's probably bent. Both of them are old enough that if there's any damage, they'll total them. They won't.
Well, this big old tree behind my head, big willow tree, the porcupines have been working on it pretty hard this winter.
Uh-oh.
And my wife is upset with the porcupines now, which I never thought I would ever hear. But they killed enough limbs. Boy, it was a mess in the yard the other day. Golly. Yeah, but I guess that's a good thing being a willow. You can resprout stuff real quick. So
just stick the sticks in the ground. Some of them will
yeah, we've done that.
You ought to be able to plant some of them
I don't
down.
think we did it successfully though, because it was like the winter of the moose right after that. And
oh well,
they hit them pretty hard. But yeah, we take those limbs and stick them in a bucket of water and get them to start, and then plant them. And
how many porcupines do you reckon you got eaten in those trees on a given
well, it looks like
month or week?
I know there's one. It lives underneath we got an old open air kind of meat shed kind of a deal out there, old timey building, and it lives under there. And every night it gets up in the tree when it, weather's fit at least. Wind's not screaming, but yeah, it's been working it. It's eating bigger limbs than it normally eats, so.
I gotta write that down. That's
my wife is taking her name in vain. I never thought I'd ever hear her say something. I mean, that's the most defenseless creature on the planet. When it comes to meeting a human being, at least.
Oh, yeah.
They can't run. They can't. I mean, they sit up there and look at you with them big old black eyes. And they got eyes like a white shark. They're just, and they just, I kind of like having them about, but
yeah,
the dogs don't like them too much.
Well, you'd like,
but they're supposed to be here, so I don't.
Yeah, it's hard to. I mean, I see why some people might not care for them, but when they start killing your trees, they're a little harder to take.
My daughter-in-law, the fish biologist, was like, "Oh yeah, get rid of all of them," because they're a higher vertebrate. So,
yeah.
Hey Boone, you ready for dinner or breakfast? Yeah. Yep. You ready for breakfast? Yep.
I reckon since they're not a fish, she probably don't, figure they.
Yeah, they got legs.
I was going to say that they walk on the earth there.
Higher vertebrate, but anyway, Boudreaux, Wolfgang.
You must have had somebody come in.
Yeah, they're here. So I'm going to say fairly well to all you fine folk, and I'll try to be on next weekend.
All right. Well, be careful out there on that fence.
It's yeah, we got it. Hey, come here, Abby. Come here a minute. Come here, and see Grandpa. Come here. There. So I don't think you've ever seen this one.
Well, hi there, Miss Abby.
That's Miss Abby.
Good morning.
Absaroka Rose.
You're looking mighty fine this morning.
She is fine. She's got a big old jug of milk in her one arm and a big smile. All right, off you go. Take off. It's time to eat. All right, we'll see you guys later.
All right, take care. Be careful out there.
Oh, we will.
All right, bye. And there you go, folks. That's our update from Wyoming for the day. And now, who all did I miss? Jason? Good morning, Jason. Good morning, Dave. I've said hi to Nico, I think. Who did I miss? Who else did I miss? Francisco, I think I saw somebody say. I did miss him. So where's the donuts? Well, Dave, the donut guy hasn't even shown up today, so I'm afraid that the donuts, Dave's going to give up on us. I just can't seem to. We can't seem to get the donuts here when Dave makes it in. My apologies, Dave. We'll work on that. I'll try to do better. If my town had a donut shop in it, I'd have donuts. But of all things, for this town not to have the donut shop. I mean, you'd think that at least have a Krispy Kreme or something. Well, I appreciate that, Dave. Well, you guys saw the house. I guess you saw the house. That was our daughter Kelly's place. Here's another one. This is inside the garage, so it's a mess, but they'll get through it. And I don't know. We hadn't talked about this, but I kind of thought we might end up going down there either today or tomorrow. Here's a little bit another picture of Brad, our son-in-law's crushed truck. Pretty big tree. Did some serious damage. That's the problem with trees. I love trees. I love to be surrounded by trees, but until they fall down. And what can you say? You actually have several, though. You mean several down trees, Rhonda? Or donuts? Or donut shops. Maybe you meant donut shops. You're thinking, I mean, how to put this? Brennan and I consider this kind of a food desert because there's not a lot of, especially healthier options here in town. So you'd think a donut shop would be right on their list, but there's not one. And I went to I went into the grocery store last Saturday morning early. Got up early and went down there just to see if they had fresh donuts because I never had really tried to buy them inside the store, and they didn't. So I know Walmart sells donuts, but I don't know where theirs come from. I don't know if they bake them in house or not. I don't think so. The Yeah, Carol, I'm glad they're safe too. I'm sure it woke them up with a start, and fortunately, it missed their bedroom. Sets just on just off the end of that garage that garage butts up. I can't describe it. The house faces. Let's say the house faces this way, and that garage butts up against this end of the house, and it's right by where their bedroom is. So, it could have come into it could have been worse if it'd fallen, a little bit more in that direction. The Thank goodness it didn't do that. Brenda, remind me, does their bedroom, does it have an outside door on that deck up in the back? I can't remember. If it did, then it didn't miss it by that much. But fortunately, it anyway. She sent me pictures the other morning, and we were, they haven't done. I'm wondering if they'll start cutting and clearing today. Our friend Philip, you guys have met Philip a time or two, I think. Um, he called me yesterday, won't know if he could come up and help carry and pick up tree limbs and stuff. So he may be up there today helping out too. I don't know. I don't know, Brenda. If you did you hear anything from her last night? I'm going to send her a note real quick while I'm thinking. See if she answers me back. She could jump in the chat. Yeah, it's bad too because they've been working on that clearing, trying to get some of the trees out. And I think Brad's dad, who lives in Wisconsin, I think he'd been down here a time or two with it brought, and he may cut wood. He may be I don't know if he's a lumber guy or a sawyer or whatever, but he came down and helped, cut and trim and before, but This is the one they hadn't gotten to. It was the next one on their list, but and I don't know if any of you ever had to deal with this or not, but to get trees, to hire trees removed or to get them cut back like that is really not cheap. I'm not saying I'm not saying they overcharge. It's just it's expensive work, and I used to have to hire people to do it for us occasionally when I was still working. If one of our trees, by that meaning if it was on our property, fell and we were responsible for removing it, we'd have to hire somebody. We didn't have a saw crew or a maintenance crew that went out and took care of that kind of stuff usually. And so I'm familiar with what they charge. It's not cheap to have one. Then plus the house we lived in on before we moved here, we had a couple trees come down there, or that had to be taken out. And while I didn't have to pay for those, fortunately, um, we did have to. I did price them, so I knew what they were charging, which is probably why the people that decided to remodel and work on the house, and when we moved out, which is why we had to move. I think they took most of the trees out, which I really hated. Just, like I said, it's that you're damned if you do and damned if you don't. Pardon my language. You want the trees for the shade and that kind of protection, but when they fall, it's just disastrous. Anyway, good morning, Kay Atwood. Let me check again. Hopefully, if I missed anything, we're going to talk about the Iditarod today. Some of you were, I think some of you were in Rhonda's chat the other. Let's see. I guess that was last Saturday afternoon, and saw the start of the ceremonial start at least of the Iditarod, and I thought I had started to do it then, and thought I would do a sort of a little history on it, and that got me into looking into more than that. So I'm going to do a little bit of history, but then we're going to talk about what's going on up there right now and where people are at, because I signed up to get some of the day-to-day information, and it's pretty fascinating. Yeah, there you go, Rhonda. I meant to ask you if you had that link, and I forgot about it. If anybody wants to see that, Chris was up there, and I think we got to see all. I'm trying to think. There's 30 some teams that started the race, and they were all there last weekend, and for several reasons. One, just location and amount of snow and that kind of thing. They do a ceremonial start of the race in Anchorage, but then and the dogs run a short distance, well, 30 miles, 40 miles total, I think. I looked it up. And then they move them up to another town, and that's where they actually started the race Monday or Tuesday morning. Rhonda, you might. I've got the date here, but we made it in the 20s before we had to end the stream. Oh, okay. That's. I guess I knew that. I just didn't remember how many. We have better plans for next year, and leading up to it. Well, that's cool. The oh, Sunday. Oh, is that they started on Sunday? I thought they started Monday. For some reason, I thought they skipped a day. Anyway, I've got some up to date information, hot off the presses, at least within 3 or 4 hours. um, Even today, we're the time difference and all that considered. Um, I think and I'll pull it back up here. my thoughts are bouncing around to too many places. I think my newest update here. I've got an update. I just refreshed my screen here. And it's from this morning at 5:54. That would be 10 o'clock. So that's just half an hour ago. That's the newest update I've gotten. It's one of the mushers had reached. Let me look at the screen. He was at checkpoint Galena, and I'll show you a map in a minute. And some of this stuff is available without a subscription. Some of it's I bought a short-term subscription so I could kind of keep up with the race this year and see what's going on in it. And I guess if you stay connected to them, over the course of the year, you probably learn about other races and things because there's qualifying races and shorter races and other races around the state and around the country. But I'll give you a little bit more information on that. Yeah, it's been going on for 5 days and 16 hours. She's right. Let's see. I've got the exact, 5:54. Well, 5:54. No, that was the time. Excuse me. This screen, for example, one of the mushers today named Wade Mars, he checked into Galena at 5:54 Alaska time, and he's there. Looks like he might still be there. I was just trying to see if it gave a time in. Oh no, he was there. No, I'll take that back. He arrived there at 2:34 this morning Alaska time, and he left a few minutes ago or a half hour ago, heading out again. So he's back on the road, and he's been mushing for 17 hours and 4 minutes and blah 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 seconds. Now I think they're just recording how much. I have to figure that out because they give route times that this doesn't have everything on it in one place. They give the en route. For example, they're telling the time between the last checkpoints. They have to go through a series of checkpoints and how long they rest there. And that Wade Morris, for example, rested 3 hours and 20 minutes at Galena checkpoint. And I'll tell you a little bit more about Galena. I can tell you that long, and I can show you on a map, and I'll do that in a minute. And it derived its name from lead sulfate ore found in the area. It usually has something to do with lead, if I'm not mistaken. Galena, Illinois is where they used to dig a lot of the lead in this country for all kinds of things that lead was used for. Everything from bullets up to car batteries. I'll just tell you, the population is 527. Galena derived its name from lead sulfate ore found in the area, known chemically as Galena. The town was founded in 1920 when natives moved downriver from the old town site of Loudon because of the availability of firewood. It says a man could cut 250 cords a winter and sell it for $8 a cord. That sounds cheap. I wonder how long ago that was. I mean, you can't buy a cord of wood down here for $8. To the stern wheelers that work the rivers in the summer, the checkpoint is at the old community hall downtown. So, that's just a little bit about Galena. The one before that was Ruby. So anyway, we'll get there. Let me pull up my little bit of the history of all this. And we'll talk about that first. You know what? I need to remember what I'm doing here. There we go. Slideshow. Yeah. Share screen, share window. There we go. I put this, I don't know if anybody noticed this or not. This is a current picture, not today, but a couple days ago, of that. You see that red bag or pack that's hanging on the back of a sled. And there's a thermometer right there, and that thermometer is reading minus 30 degrees Fahrenheit. And that's earlier in the week that they were racing, or mushers were out going at 30 degrees, minus 30. I don't remember which day that was when I grabbed that picture offline, but that was an actual shot of this year's race. So it's not, it's not exactly a warm and tropical time they're having up there. And let me pull up my other pictures here. So now I will try to keep up with the chat and try to keep up with everything. Everyone in the race class is taking their 24. Yeah. They have to, part of what they have to do is everybody is mandatory except for a group called the expedition teams, which I'm trying to learn more about this week. I've been looking for them. I think that's a new category, because they can rotate their dogs in and out. They don't have to take the mandatory 24-hour break, but everybody else has to do that. Rhonda is saying that each musher has a Facebook page where their teams post updates. The one who scratched posted why. Apparently the trail was super windy and rough right before she scratched, which I was going to mention that only one musher has dropped out of the race, which to me sounds amazing, because they're about halfway there. The leaders are about halfway, or maybe just a little past halfway to Nome, and only one person has dropped out of the race. So I think that's pretty special. Expedition are the people who Rhonda's saying expedition are the people who pay donations to experience but aren't really racing. That makes sense. And I know they get outside help, and like I said, they can rotate dogs in. That makes more sense if that's what they're to be doing it that way, because that way the dogs are getting extra care. They're not that the other dogs don't get a lot of care, they do, and they can have a chance to swap out for new fresh dogs. Well, Kelly's home safe. They had a good turnout last night, she said, and she sold a lot of stuff, so good deal. Oh, she is sending me pictures. Well, since I've already done some show and tell, I'll just show. This is her. I don't know where this is at. I just know this is in Asheville, North Carolina, and this is her. I don't know. You guys can't see that very well. Come on, camera, focus. That's her booth. This is what this show wasn't supposed to be about, Kelly, but what the heck. So if anybody's ever interested, she has some of her stuff posted. Well, I'm going to say that, and then I'm going to back up. She's hesitant to mail her stuff because it's kind of delicate. And I don't think she's figured out exactly how to ship it without, breaking down. Let me send her one quick note, and then I'll. So anyway, back to where we were at. Let's see. Someone posted a picture today of a dog that had to drop off from a team. He was sitting in the motel on a bed eating steak. I haven't seen that one yet. The I know that I've got a pic. I think I've got a picture that shows one of the dogs that is, for whatever reason, was taken off the hitch and was being carried on the sled, and the dog was in a wrapped up in a bag, you know, nice and cozy, and is riding on the sled, probably going nanny nanny boo boo at the other dogs because they're pulling it. Anyway, so let's talk a little bit about this and all that stuff you guys know. I just threw these are just some start pictures. One that lower one is not a start. It's just a not. It's not one of the dogs that's competing. Let me back up. That is competing at another event, but not that dog. That team 55 was not at this event. This is where the it looks kind of interesting, kind of a strange juxtaposition or um, mix mash. You got dog sleds running up the street in Anchorage, Alaska, but under traffic lights and stuff. I think that's kind of neat. So this is basically, if you guys, hopefully you can see this. This is kind of the basic old Iditarod, what was known as the Iditarod Trail or the historic trail. And while this trail and some of this event and the history of it has a lot to do with the dip, I gotta say this right, diphtheria serum runs from 1920, I believe it's 1925. It's all of it's not part of that, but these trails, these trails existed before that, because if you lived in Nome, Alaska in 1915, you didn't have to just worry about getting medicine up there. People actually had to bring in firewood and supplies all winter long, and they actually moved all this stuff around through there by dog sled, because in the wintertime, that was the only way you could do it. Now, they still do that today, and they also, in that part of the world, and they also use snow machines, or snowmobiles, as we call them, or most of us call them, to tow and pull stuff up. And they bring in stuff during the earlier part of the year. They've got more ships and boats, and they can transport a lot of heavier stuff. So they lay in a lot of that stuff now sooner. But back then, the way to get around to Nome was by water, except once everything froze, it has to come by land. And that meant over the snow and dog sled. But if you can see this map, that Anchorage is right down here. Oh, I can't tell. What am I doing wrong here? Oh, I know what I'm doing wrong. There. Now maybe I can see what I'm doing. Sorry. Yeah, there's my cursor. Anchorage is right in this area, and Nome is way up here on this peninsula, the Seward Peninsula. And sorry about that, guys. I confused myself. What you guys know is not an unusual thing. I was trying to see if this map may not have the other town where it started. And if you also look down here at the bottom of this map, it has Seward on it, and all this stuff started up here in Anchorage. And I'm on the wrong map again. Up here in Anchorage, and I've lost my cursor. There it is again. Here's Seward, here's Anchorage, and the starting point now is more up in this area. And it's not on this map. I thought it was. It'll be on the next map. But it's roughly, I'm going to say it's from where they actually start to Nome is roughly 1,000 miles. But it varies because of conditions. Sometimes they have to route different ways, and there's two different routes. There's a southern route and a northern route. and they alternate part of that year to year so that the towns and the villages along the route can get all of them get a turn. So this year, these towns reap the rewards of the event. Next year, it's the other way around. And I'm going to get more to that in just a minute. Because first I want to do some of the history of the sledding and some of the, while it's not the Iditarod race as it is today isn't tied directly to this, it is part of this. And there's the town, and over here is the town of Iditarod. I don't know if you saw that or not, but last year they went out of Fairbanks. Yeah, because the weather was bad. So Fairbanks is up in this area of the state, and they had more snow because the weather and lack of snow and all kinds of things down in here, they moved it up to there. So again, the distance was different. So it varies. So if you look at a map, it's inconsistent. One year it might be 558 miles. The next year it might have been, or not 500, but 958 miles. And then it might be 1,005 miles. I mean, it just bounces around a little bit. So let's talk a little bit about some of the history of dog sledding in Alaska. Some of the most famous, I guess, mainstream American probably got a dose of what it was like to live in Alaska and how important dog sleds were, and maybe even just what dog sleds were and what they did during the 1925 diphtheria epidemic that hit part of Alaska, Nome in particular. And the only way they could get the antitoxin or the serum up there was by dog sled. So, and back then, they didn't have, CNN news or 24 hours a day internet news. So everything came out on the radio or in the newspapers. And these dog sledders, or these mushers and the teams and their dogs, became heroes to the general public who was reading all this about how they were, fighting the elements to get to Nome to get the serum up there and save lives. And these are just some of the pictures that were drawn in the different papers. And it just kind of shows. And this one, I don't know if you can read this or not, but down here it says part of the race was minus 54 below zero. And something over here says diphtheria is scourge. It says scourging Nome, and here's the medical supplies that they're trying to get up there. And even in 1925, and I didn't realize airplanes had become this commonplace in Alaska then, and I have a comment to add to that. But they could have flown the antitoxin in up there then, but because of the weather, they couldn't do it. Alaska has more airplanes than they do cars. And there are more, I read one time, and I haven't looked this up lately, but there are more pilot licenses issued in Alaska than there are driver's license issued in Alaska, because there's so many parts of Alaska that you can't get to any other way, short of walking or dog sledding in the winter or a snow machine. So they fly everything in and out, and supplies are moved. There's all kinds of small air taxi companies that fly bush planes in and out. I mean, that's how they get around in Alaska. And that's why one year I thought I was going to go up there. I thought I had a job lined up to go up there and work on airplanes that a friend of mine from school that I met when I went back to college, he was going up there for the summer. He was a pilot, and he was going back up to fly for the summer. A friend of his had a charter service that flew tourists in and out of the national park Denali, and I don't remember the new name for Denali, but Denali National Park, I think, still is that. I think it still carries that name. The mountain's named it, not McKinley anymore. But anyway, I was going to go up and do that. I wanted to go up there and spend the summer and, work on airplanes and learn a little bit more about Alaska because I've wanted to go up there my whole life. That's just something I've had a craving for forever. Probably since I read Call of the Wild or something. I don't know. It is Denali. I was thinking there was another name, but they changed it to something else. It was maybe there's a native pronunciation. Maybe that's what I'm thinking of. Anyway, I was going to go up there and work, and airplanes are just so that important today. And even in 1925, apparently they were. And I didn't realize they had already made that kind of an impact. So this is what Nome looked like. This is actually an image from 1916, the one on the left or right here. This photo, wintertime picture of Nome. I'm sure in 1925 it probably didn't look much different. They changed it to McKinley, but everyone still calls it Denali. Okay. And that's one of the guy on the right, Leonard Seppala, and I may not be pronouncing his name right, and I apologize if I'm not. And these were some of his dogs, and if you ever saw, there was a movie. It's not on Disney Channel or Disney Plus right now. Not sure why. But it was called Togo. I believe was the name of the movie, and Togo was one of the famous lead dogs that were part of the Serum Run in 1925, and that's Leonard Seppala and his team with Togo, and Togo is the dog here on the left hand side, and they point that out because to win races or to have a good functioning dog team, whether you're racing or just moving around or hauling supplies or whatever, in that part of the world, you got to have a good lead dog. And the lead dog is just like a foreman of a job site. I mean, I hate to use this analogy, but maybe like in the military, you've got a leader and you either have a really good unit or not. And a lot of times it's based on their leadership, and dogs are that way too. And you need a good lead dog in order to, have a good team. And Seppala and his dogs were really a vital part of moving this. And they did this run, the Serum runs in relays, and there were different teams and different dogs would cover, as many miles as they could, maybe 200 or 300 miles, and another team would take over and another team. And later, Seppala is kind of important because there's a whole line of dogs now up there. I don't want to say a breed, but a bloodline that he created with his huskies and dogs that he, I guess, crossbred to get really good sled dogs, and that line still exists. If you look at some of the dogs that are out there now being used, that they'll say have that name Seppala in their name, and they're direct descendants of Togo and this group. And other dogs were used in Alaska and probably Canada and other places up till about 1905 or 1908, I think. And that's when the first Russian or the Siberian Huskies started coming into Alaska. Before that, they were still running Malamutes, which are they're much bigger, heavier dogs and maybe stronger dogs in a sense. But Huskies have more of a long distance run. They can go further. They have more endurance. They tend to run further, and they became the dog of choice back then. But then since then, they have been working with different breeds. And while the Husky they still call them Huskies by and large, and the Huskies is kind of the main ingredient in the mix, but they've mixed other dog breeds for, their endurance or how they run or, long legged or big feet. I mean, just like all kinds of other things, they've selected out the qualities and traits that work best in Alaska. And that's why when you look at them, if you see a pack of dogs running today on one of these teams, or they may not look like what you consider a husky or what you think of a black and white or red and white or a copper and white looking, dog. They tend to be sometimes short haired, uh, and they almost they almost look like mutts in some ways. And by that, and I don't mean that disparagingly. I mean a mix of breeds, and again, they work to get the best qualities, and that's what they race. And there's kennels up there that are just in that part of the world famous for their dogs. This is probably the other and maybe the most famous dog at the time, and this was Balto. And there's also a movie about Balto, I think, also Disney. That and Balto may still be on the Disney Channel. I think that's the movie name. And this is the Gunnar Kasson, I believe is his name. And I think he might have been Norwegian, excuse me. And he brought his dogs in. And I'm not sure how this happened. Well, I do kind of know how it happened because of the fame of these dogs and in the papers and in the news. And they became such literally national heroes. At the time, this statue of Balto on the right is not in Alaska where you'd think it might be. It's in Central Park, New York. And Balto was celebrated because Gunnar Kasson, with his dog Balto and their team, they were the last team into Nome. So they finished the run and got the serum to Nome that was saving lives. And so that dog became extremely famous, probably more famous than Togo in the general public's eye back in the early 1900s. And then Togo kind of came along later and as a lead dog and a breed, as part of that his a kennel. I guess you could say their kennel. But in the beginning, Balto was probably more famous. And let's see if I wrote anything else down. Balto was the lead dog for the final leg. He ran 53 miles. Was that final push to get in. And this was in terrible, terrible weather. Now, bear in mind, it was minus 53 at times. And the wind, when you get over, the closer to Nome you get, the worse the weather is and the harder the event is, or the harder it gets on the competitors because you're close to the North Pacific Ocean. I'm not sure if that's part of the Bering Sea there. I should know my geography better than that. I've got a map here. But anyway, the wind's off of that, the ice flows, the ice packs, all the stuff that is involved with running along the coastline in the dead of winter makes it harder. And that's still true today. The racers today work the whole race to get to those last couple of days when they're running up the coast to get to Nome, because that's when it's the hardest. Generally, not always, but most of the time. The wind can get so bad. I was reading yesterday that they were talking about whiteouts, and the wind can get so bad that it's not snowing, but there's so much snow moving that you can't even see your dogs in front of you. That's how blinding it can get. That's how thick. I saw Snow Dogs on their Disney Plus when I was in the dentist last week. Yeah, Snow Dogs are, that's still on there. There's a couple of others. I think Iron Will is still on. If you've ever seen Iron Will, which I think is a great movie. And I started watching it yesterday because of getting back into this. It's one of those, to me, it's just it's a good old fashioned heart wrenching kind of, the hero wins kind of thing in the end, but it's a true story. Um, anyway, watch it. If you've never seen Iron Will, watch it. I recommend it highly. So anyway, these dogs 1920s, these dogs became extremely famous. You could ask today, and there's probably not 100 people in the country know who you're talking about, but well, that's probably not an accurate number. I made that up, but not many. You get the point. So this was the 54th Iditarod, or the Iditarod Trail Sled Dog Race. The Iditarod Trail is a National Historic Trail. Let's see here. From Anchorage to Nome, Mushers and the team, they can run, generally speaking, they run between 12 and 16 dogs. And at the end, they must have at least 5 dogs on the tow line at the finish line. Now, so they can start dropping them off. And one thing that the mushers do, I was reading this too, I didn't know they could do this, but they will stage equipment and supplies all along the route, which is done primarily by airplanes. And they'll actually have a small, lightweight sled that they'll use to pull the last few hundred miles up the coast when the going gets harder. So they can probably get by with fewer dogs once they get out that far. So they can kennel their dogs or have somebody there waiting to take the dogs if they don't want to run them all that last little bit. And what that would do for the mushers is cut down on how much food they've got to carry, generally lower the weight of the sled tremendously, and it's just an all-out race to the end at that point. And so you can get away with that. I've got some pictures of sleds here in a minute. I think I've got one lightweight sled shown, and they're more of an aluminum, as you might imagine, modern materials. A lot of them are still made out of ash and other kinds of hardwood. Let's see. It usually takes, most people can cover, most of the racers cover it in 8 to 15 days. I'm sure Rhonda could probably look it up quicker than I can, but I think the current record is, well, I've got it here in a minute. Some of the rules of the race is, the animal care is very strict, and exemplary dog care standards are enforced. These dogs have to be checked right up until the date the race starts, and they're checked at the dogs. There's vets at the checkpoints that make sure the dogs are being cared for and taken care of. Each dog has, what is this? She's saying each dog has a chip that's read at every checkpoint to make sure the dog's healthy, and probably to make sure they're not switching dogs out somewhere along the way. Not saying they're cheaters. I'm just saying that some people will do anything to win, and a chip would make sure that didn't happen. We talked about this a minute ago, but there's 2 mandatory extended, what they consider extended rest periods. One that's a 12-hour and one that's an 8-hour rest period. Is that right? Or is there a 24? Rhonda, is there a 24-hour rest? Or is it just 12? I've got that table pulled up here. Yeah, there actually is a 24-hour rest period, so that's a misprint. I put that in wrong, so my bad on that. And the other one's an 8-hour period. And most of them, I've been reading about the strategy of when they take their rest and the 12-hour rest, and I'll go over that a little bit more in a minute. Race officials can withdraw teams if they're no longer competitive, or they're delayed too much, or there's some other safety issue or well-being with the team is compromised. They can pull them and stop them. And then there's the expedition class that we mentioned earlier. They follow the same trail, but they're not limited to 16 dogs, and mushers can swap out for fresh dogs along the way, and they can have outside assistance. As Rhonda said, it's more of a, I don't want to say tourist version, but they're not quite the same competitiveness as the other racers. Let's see here. I've got a few more facts and figures. Despite the connections made linking heroic dogs with the 25 or 26, and I just lost my place, Diptherium runs, Yeah, it's not the two. They have little in common other than the basic trail, I guess is what I'm trying to get at. The Iditarod Trail was one of 4 U.S. National Historic Trails that was designated in 1978. And the trail is named after the town of Iditarod, which makes sense. This race has been going on since 1973 as it is established today. Now they do other dog races all over Alaska. Some of them are almost as long as the Iditarod. They're just not as famous. So it's in March. Generally, it's from Anchorage to Nome. The distance they're listing here, which is this year's race, is 938 miles, and they're on what they call the Northern Loop. I'll show you that on a map in a minute. And the current course record was set by Dallas Seavey, 7 days, 14 hours, and 8 minutes, and 57 seconds. Hey, Marbar. Oh, that's right. It's, I forgot. Kay, Carol, happy birthday. Oh, thank you. I almost forgot that. And I had it written down here in my notes not to forget. And I hadn't said anything about it. And I meant to. So happy birthday, Carol. Slowest, Rhonda says the slowest winning time in Iditarod history was set by Carl Huntington in 74, who finished in 20 days, 15 hours, 2 minutes, and 7 seconds. It's what I was laughing about a minute ago before I saw the happy birthday notice. Yeah, she reminded me last week, and I keep forgetting. I still forget. Is that they time this down to 7 within the second. I find that I like that. I think that's neat, and it's just you wouldn't think that you're racing over 15 days or 20 days or 7 days, and you're still timing it down to the second. Well, who else have I missed? Hey, John, welcome in. I didn't see you come in, buddy. Now what did you just say, Rhonda, that I read? Slowest winning time in Iditarod history. Here's an interesting. She said the slowest winner, Jesse Holmes in 2025, won the race 10 days, 14 hours, 55 minutes, and 41 seconds on the longest route in race history. That's kind of cool. Funny thing about that, Jesse Holmes is leading this year's race and has beat everyone to every checkpoint so far. And they give out awards for who reaches a certain checkpoint first or in a certain number of hours. Could be like a handmade set of mittens that were made out of fur, and I can't remember if it's beaver fur. I guess it's beaver fur, and fur lined and all that. And they gave those away. And Jesse Hunt, so far he's gotten everything. One of the special prizes he got, and I can't remember which town it was. I think I've got it written down here in a minute. He got like a gourmet dinner for him and whoever he wanted to have with him, and he picked somebody that was a volunteer. I think that had been working the race for many years, and he picked him to sit down and he was in Life Below Zero. Okay, or is in it. What did Carol say? Keep the facts coming. Oh, okay. Yeah, you can do that. I appreciate that, Rhonda, because I can't look them all up, and I'm sure I'm missing lots of stuff. Let's see if I got anything else here in my notes. Yeah. When they did the serum run back in 25, there were 20 mushers involved, 150 sled dogs. The basic route that they took from wherever they could get the serum to, probably by train, was 674 miles, and they ran it in 5.5 days. And the epidemic they were really expecting it to be devastating if they hadn't been able to get up there. with the serum, by the way. They run roughly 1,000 miles. I'm still getting this is still basic facts, which I probably already talked about. Team size between 12 and 16 dogs. There are also, and I've already read about the 15. The dogs must be microchipped. The ECG and EKG recordings before and after have to be done. Qualification for a musher, you have to be at least 18 years old, and you have to have competed a prior Iditarod or a qualifying race such as the Yukon Quest or 750 miles when approved qualifying races. So if you run the Iditarod but maybe not finished it or just run part of it, that's can be part of your qualifications. There's some other mandatory rules such as mushers must carry. This is just some of the things you have to carry. And I'm not sure at times from the restart. This may mean when they dump a lot of their gear towards the end of the race when they start lightening their load, but they have to have an Arctic parka, a heavy sleeping bag, an axe, which has to be a certain size, 1 3/4 pound axe with a 22-inch handle, which is this is what's known as a Hudson's Bay axe or a small canoe axe, and this is about half that size. So roughly, something about twice the size of that. And what else did they have to have? One operational pair of snowshoes had to cover at least 252 square inches, and that's the pad that you're setting down on the snow, and an operational cook pot and a cooker. So you have to have some way to heat, melt snow, and do that kind of stuff to feed yourself and the dogs. Plus fuel to boil 3 gallons of water. Booties for all your dogs, at least 8 per dog, it says, and insulated dog coats for each dog, and a veterinary notebook. They're really strict about keeping good veterinary records on all these dogs. I don't know. I'm straying here. I realize, but if you've ever watched what was the other show on not History Channel but Discovery or wherever, National Geographic, the lady vet up in the Yukon, can't think of her name. She used to get some of those shows. They focused on her going to sled dog races, and she would staff a checkpoint to check the dogs as they came in in their races. They're different, not necessarily. I don't know if she ever worked out Iditarod, but they showed her doing other races. So this is the current basic racetrack. Like I said, they start down here in Anchorage, but they don't really. They move up here to, and they don't show it on this map either. But they move up here to actually start the race. And this is what I was referring to as the southern and the northern routes. One year they run this route, the next year they run this lower route, and it's so all of these little towns get a chance to, I guess, reap some of the economic benefits of having an event like this go through your town. This year they're running the northern loop, so they're going up through Cripple, Ruby, Galena, and they're basically in that Galena area, which I don't know if you can't read it, it's right up in here right now. Largest number of racers to finish a single race was 78 back in 2008. Yeah, that's another thing, and I didn't read the numbers to see how many, but apparently there's 34 racers this year, and that's considered, I guess, relatively small group. They used to be larger, like 78 in 2008. Hey, Donna, welcome in. Donna's lived in Alaska. She probably knows all about Nome. In fact, you lived in Nome, I believe, didn't you, Donna? Wasilla is where Chris has been working. Okay. Hey, our John. I know Donna was. They were stationed in Alaska for a few years, I think. So let's see, where was I here? And anyway, Nome is up here on this. Oh, I had it right and I moved. No, I didn't. You guys can't see that. Up here is Nome. So this is the country. And when I was talking about once they get over in here along the coastline is when things get really rough, can get really rough. And like I said, so far, unless something has changed in the last couple of hours, and Rhonda may be keeping up with it now, but I'll run the ticker here in a minute. There's only one musher who's withdrawn, and I didn't read that thing that Rhonda put it. Rhonda, well, I don't know, we can find it, but if you go back to that clip about why she pulled out, and I know her name and I can't think of it. You know, print some of that up. And you said it was weather related or her dog. I can't remember now. You said something about the conditions weren't suitable. Hi, Nicole. Well, welcome in. Friend of Isabel. Riley is in third. Okay. I'm trying updates on Riley. Oh, okay. Nicole, we can do that. Yeah, Jay Fountain, which is female Jay, if I'm not mistaken. Foucher is the only musher who has dropped out so far. I got some other little notes here. Let me read through here and see if I got anything worthy of mentioning. Just talking about how the mileage changes kind of from year to year because of weather conditions and different things. And I've got a list of the checkpoints, but I'm not going to sit here and read all those off. You can find that easily. And I think you can still get that information. You don't have to have a subscription. And they do have a free subscription service that you can keep up with the basic race. You just can't get as many live updates and things. My nose is itching. I must be telling a lie. I think I've already mentioned all that. The blue, if you can see the colors, the blue route here is what they're running this year. My girls were Girl Scouts and served pancake breakfast to the mushers after they'd finished the race. That's cool. My husband and I, let me pull that up, Donna. My husband and I helped cook the breakfast. It was fun. That's really cool. And I've been reading about that, and that's a big thing along this route. These different checkpoints and small villages and stuff. I was reading last night. I think was in Ruby, and I'll correct myself in a minute when I find if I'm wrong. They're famous for pies, and all the mushers get a piece of pie or maybe a whole pie, and to eat there. It's sort of like a treat they get at that check spot. And they showed one of the racers yesterday. I watched him stop, and somebody brought him out like a sack lunch to take with him. I don't know, sandwiches or something, they said, but a piece of pie and a paper plate. And he ate the pie right there on the spot, and he put the sandwich down for later. He wasn't going to let the pie pass. And I'm sure that was a quick burst of energy. Current leader is Jesse Holmes. There are 14 rookies this year. So out of about 34 racers, or 14 of them are rookies, first year ever. And I think Jay, I don't know if she was a rookie or not. Actually, no, this might have been her second Iditarod. Two of the rookies are in the expedition class. Okay, let's go to the next. So here's a basic roster of all the folks who were running this year, and I don't know if you can read this. I tried to set this up and mark them so I would be able to talk about this a little bit more intelligently. If you look at the pictures of each one of them here, I've got an R a red R in the upper left-hand corner. If it's an R, that's a rookie. They're rookies this year. The X's across their faces, which might be kind of crude, I don't know, means that they've withdrawn. And there were 5 racers that withdrew, 5 applicants that withdrew before the race started. And I see I didn't take an R out. I left a stray R down here wandering around by itself. I don't know. These guys had different, maybe they had sick dogs, or maybe they couldn't get there, or who knows. But anyway, these 5 had withdrawn before the race actually started. And then Jay up here is the one who has withdrawn. And what else have I got marked on here? Oh, down here, there's 3 expedition racers running right now. And it's not going to show me. You might be able to. Yeah, maybe not. I thought this was going to back up. I thought this was going to let us see now. Yeah, well, I don't know. If you put a cursor on these guys, does anything show up for you guys? If I put a cursor on one right now, for example, I don't know if it won't show up on your screen, but I can tell who the racers are and what their names are. So anyway, they won't show up. They can on mine, so I can put my cursor on there, and I know that who's who. For example, this on my screen, it'll pop up their name, and it says Chad Stoddard. For this guy, the one here in the ball cap and the green shirt. The lady beside is Josie Shelley, Josi, and I can't pronounce either middle name or abbreviated last name, Thyr. There, maybe. Yeah, I guess that's true, Rhonda. But anyway, if you look, you can see this lady right here. Her name is Potts. Let me see. Let me get it right. Potts Joseph is her last name. I believe she is on that Lopolo Zero or whatever it's called, the Alaskan show also, Rhonda, or whoever put that in a minute ago. Tanks and things. So there are a couple of these folks that are famous for other reasons, not just not just the Iditarod. And for example, and I've got this on my next slide. I've got the whole list of racers here, but I'm not going to read all the way down through it. As you can imagine, a lot of them live in Alaska, but not all. But most of the ones that don't live in Alaska grew up in places like Wisconsin, Minnesota, or Scandinavian country, or Canada. I mean, places where you have snow and mushers, where dog sleds are still a thing and used. This is Jody Potts Joseph. She is, again, one of the 36 mushers. She's a rookie this year. And I put down a little bit of information. This is just kind of this is an example of what they show as their, if you will, bio that's listed. It says in 2024, history is made when 4 women placed in the top 10. Okay, Paige Drobny, who is in second right now. Millie Porsled, I'm butchering names and I apologize. Amanda Otto and Jessie Royer. Funny, at least 2 of those ladies are in the top 10 right now, if not all 4 of them again. And she's a local favorite. Okay, cool. And this is not just something that men win. There are several women. One of the first times I can remember being interested in following the Iditarod was when Susan Butcher was running, and Susan Butcher won the Iditarod 3 times in a row and she's won it a total of either 4 or 5 times, I believe. On the merch page, they have things with where men are men and women win the Iditarod. That is good. I don't know the exact numbers, and I've got I've got a list somewhere, but I won't say it's evenly split men and women, but there are a lot of women who've won this event. So I was talking about dogs a little bit earlier. The dog at the upper left, this is a Malamute, and you can see how bigger and beefier he is. Huskies and Malamutes look a lot alike in the sense that their coloration. Malamutes tend to be heavier furred than Huskies, although my Husky was much furrier than that dog, our Nicky. He was, but even though he was supposed to be a purebred, I swear I think he had a little bit of Malamute in him just because of his size. He was a big dog. But the lower one in the middle is one of the Cephala dogs I mentioned earlier. And you can tell by looking, he's not a purebred. They're not purebred Huskies. They are considered Huskies. They're called Huskies. But might be an example of what one of the teams that are running, and this might be the breed they've developed in their own kennels. But there's a lot of Siberian Husky in them, but they're not quite the same. And one of the reasons that again, like I said, the difference, Malamutes were good for hauling freight sleds and carrying heavier loads back when that was the main thing. But when they started racing them, Siberian Huskies tend to be, as you can see, lighter weight, lighter frames. They're just built for running. They're a little bit different. And again, that's what they're doing down here at the bottom. They're mixing a few breeds around to get the traits they want to be race dogs. Don said I had a Husky Golden Lab mix. He was my best friend. That'd be a good mix, Husky and Lab, I would think. History is made. Let's see. Rhonda's got another history making fact from 2023. Oh, Ryan Reddington. Yeah, Reddington was one of the founders of the race. I think there were three men who basically put their heads together and said, hey, we need to make an event out of this. Alaska native sweeping the top three. Well, that's cool. Ryan Reddington, Pete Kaiser, and who else? Somebody's missing there. There's a top three. One of the top three is not on that list. Might have been a cut and paste there, perhaps. Oh, Richie Deal. There it is right there. Sorry, Rhonda. Didn't see it. We had a Siberian Husky named Nicky, and he was just a beautiful dog, and he was a good dog. He was hard-headed as hell, I must admit. I trained him, took him through all the obedience classes, and thought he was doing really good till the day we had to go test out, and then he didn't do anything. But he was a sucker. He was a sucker for hot dog buns, though. He could be out running the town and wouldn't want to come home, but a hot dog bun would bring him home every time. I don't know if Brenda's still in here, but she discovered that fact. So anyway, these are the basic dogs now. That down here is what they really more like what you might see running today, but there's still a lot of closer to purebred Huskies being run. And these are just some general pictures, but I've got equipment here, a sign, part of the historic trail. Got some dogs up here at the top that have got lightweight jackets on. These guys with the yellow, green, lime, whatever these are, same thing. And you can see they got matching booties. I mean, we wouldn't want mismatching booties in our jackets. But they also have what down here at the lower corner is a heavier coat or jacket for the dogs to wear too, when it gets really super cold. So, and this is the kind they have to have. That's one of the requirements. And it doesn't show up very well on the page, but this image right, this little black piece of cloth right here, that's a booty. And that's the kind that they race in. And they go through hundreds of these things during the course of the Iditarod. which is one of the things that when they air freight stuff into the forward checkpoints along the way, they always have extra booties and extra jackets and stuff in case they need them. I put these bottom this. Let me get my cursor lined up again. This picture at the bottom shows, I believe that's 6 Samwoods pulling a sled. But what's the reason I put that in there is that's what they call a fan spread. There's two different basic hitches that they use for dog sleds. One is they kind of come out of a central point and they all fan out, and then they run in a wide like that. They're wider. And the other one is a hitch that like beside them, a gang hitch or there's two names for that. Can't remember what a gang line or a tandem hitch where they're side by side, one in front of the other. And then the lead dog is usually not centered in the front. The lead dog, I believe, is usually the front right-hand dog. But if somebody knows that it's a left-hand dog, by all means, correct me because I can't remember. To further set a record, father and son, both sons were wearing bib number 13 when they crossed the finish line. Huh, that's kind of cool. Oh, here, I didn't read the first part. Rick Mackey. I'm going to say that's Mackey. If you know it's McKee, let me know. But it looks like Mackey to me. And I've been reading that name for the last couple of days. So, won the race in '83 to become the first son of an Iditarod champion to win his father's accomplishment. When Lance Mackey won in '07, became the second son. And there is at least one Mackey, and I think two Mackeys running this week. So, Ron, if you know who they are, compared to these other Mackeys, by all means, and they do tend to be a family kind of thing. It gets, because if you grow up in a mushing family where you raise dogs and that's what you do, then chances are I guess it makes sense. And another side note, Emmett Peters was also wearing a bib 13 when he won. Oh, so what you're saying is bib 13 might be a lucky number. So anyway, this is just some of the equipment and some of the ways that you hook up. I don't know if you can see it or not or notice it, but this is a practice or training deal here. These dogs are pulling a side-by-side ATV. So somebody's riding along in this and steering and just letting the dogs practice and pull to stay in good shape. So what are they pulling? Well, these are a couple of different kind of sleds. The sled at the top, if you notice, is I don't know if it's a new thing. I'm sure they've been running them for some time, but it's got a seat right here. And usually and I was reading about this company that makes these can make that to fit a cooler. So you can carry a cooler along with you. And you can set on that to take breaks but a lot of the racing is done with the mushers running either alongside the sled or in between the runners, which they do that on this. And if I don't know if you guys can see, but right here there's two black streaks on either side. Those are foot places. So that's where they stand on the runners when they're not running between, but they run in between them. I don't know how they do that, not get knocked down with this rig, but I guess they can once you learn how to do it. I would think you could get, if you tripped or slipped, that seat's gonna kind of fold you up in there, but which having been run over like that, I can tell you that hurts. And if you look really close, there's also a foot pad or a foot brake right here. Now, normally that's not dragging, that's flipped up here out of the way, but when they want to stop the team or start slowing them down, they can let that pad drop down, and it's got spikes on it that can drag into the snow and slow the team down. And then they've also got these hooks that they drop off on either side in the back, and they're like anchors, and they lock down in the snow and hold them. Rick is Brenda's dad, Jason is brother, Lance, Rick, and Bill, who all passed away. Okay. Brenda Mackey, Jason Mackey. I thought there were two out there. Rick. Okay. So, back to the sleds. So this is what's known as a basket style sled. If you look, and it's like the one below it, and I put them in there because you can see both of them. One doesn't have the seat on the back, This one is actually what they call a tandem runner. You can run behind here, and I guess you could hypothetically have someone going along with you here, or you can change positions. I've seen these with cargo and bags and stuff. Put them up here for the during the race, and along here, and they run back here. Um, but I'm sure that varies, and maybe the actual musher is in here where the brake is. But anyway, that's a basket, what they call a basket sled, and then this upper one is what they call a toboggan sled. And the difference is, if you look closely, you can see that this one, the bottom of it, or the floor of the sled, is actually just above the snow. It's right down on the runners. Whereas these basket top sleds, the floor and the area where you tie things down is higher, and it's got more sides on it. And you can see that on the top one up there. You can see these sides rails down each side. I got another picture of that in a minute in a more traditional sled, probably like they used to run. And down in the lower corner, I added this because this is a bag that goes on this. But this particular bag is actually made for the dog. It to put a dog in it, so it's ventilated, or you can strap a dog down on your sled if you've got a dog that needs to be, you know, is injured or something along the trail, and maybe you've got to get him to the next checkpoint and drop her off there. So that's what that bag's for. So here's just another picture of sleds. That may be the same toboggan sled down at the bottom, but you can kind of see this is a large toboggan up here with a big bag to haul freight and stuff in, or cargo, or people. And this is on the left is a basket sled, a bigger basket sled, and this bottom one is what I would call a more traditional, or something like they used to run. They don't run stuff like that much anymore because they're heavier. Breaking news: Jesse Holmes made the lotto in 6 hours and 51 minutes. Oh, this morning at 6:51, which was 38 minutes ago, 40 minutes ago, roughly. I wonder if he's still there. I've got the times. I was going to pull that up here in just in a minute. And this is the end of the dog sled race. I don't know if this sign is still there or if they've got another one now, but it's basically the end of the Iditarod, and this is in Nome. And when they did this one, as you can see, they were saying that the race that year was 1,049 miles, Anchorage to Nome. So the race seems to have been shortened a little bit. Almost everything I saw for recent years, it's been just under 1,000 miles, but I think you could round it up. If you can run anywhere close to that. And Carol, I hope you're still in here. I wanted you to notice something about these people below the sign. There's somebody that's love from the mitten. A Michigan sign, exactly. It says, yeah, love from the mitten, and they were rooting for Dane, and I can't remember the last name. And we're not going to get any Michigan Ohio rivalry stuff going in here now. Come on, guys. So that's the end of that part of the show. And now what I want to try to do, if I can, is pull up some of the graphics from the race as it is going on right now. And I'm hoping that it will let me pull up and you guys are able to see this particular one. Let's see if this is going to work. It may not let me do this. I thought about this. I'm paying for this, but it may block me. I don't know. So here is basically the up to date, up to speed checkpoints and where everybody's at. So Jesse Holmes, and I just refreshed this, and I don't know if it's going to show us he's in New Lotto or not. Doesn't look like it. I wonder why. Well, maybe if I do this, it will. Yep, Jesse Holmes is in the lotto, right? He's the only one that's made it to there so far. And the time was today was 6:41. So again, what you said, 5, 10, whatever time that is from now. And then he arrived with 13 dogs in harness still. I have to go back and look, see if he started with 16. So he may have dropped 3 dogs, or he may have. It's possible that he had 3 dogs resting. And he was at the checkpoint for 10 minutes, and then he looks like he left and headed on out. Because he went out about 20, looks like he went out 28 minutes after he got there total. So I don't know how they do that math, but well, they've got 10 minutes here at the resting checkpoint, but they've got his time out as 028. So I'm not sure how they do that, but you can see, I'm going to back up so you can see all the mushers here. And if it'll let me. Oh, come on. There we go. Now I don't know. Can you guys see any of that at all? I think they need less dogs after they get through the rope. Yeah, that's true, Rhonda. They do. And that's why I was saying when they get closer to I think that's why that rule about they have to have at least 5 dogs in harness when they get to the Nome is because as they get closer and they get out on the coast, I was reading that the mushers send lightweight sleds out there, and they'll be waiting, and when they get there, they'll change their gear over what they need, just minimum of what they need to take with them on a lighter weight sled, which would only require, say, 5 or 6 dogs to finish up the race. You're in the wrong place. I think I'm back in the right place now. I mean, this is not Nulato. I moved back to Ruby because this one has more of the racers in it, or it did. It's not showing me all of them. Let me see if I can pull everybody back up. I had them up earlier. It may not let me do it. Yeah, here we go. This is where I wanted to be. This has everybody that's still racing, and let's go to the bottom here and just see if they've got Jay down here. Yeah, the one retiree or scratched is Jay Fauscher, and she's a rookie. She is a rookie. I thought it was her first race, but it's not. Second race, but it's not. And I think she pulled out at Finger Lake, maybe. Looks like that was her last checkpoint. And these are at the bottom of the list. These are the expedition teams. Thomas Warner. I don't know how to pronounce this name. This gentleman is Swedish or a Swiss, I believe. Maybe Kyle Roke. I apologize. And Steve Curtis, who's a rookie. Now, this is where this thing that Rhonda was saying about these races. Oh, no, there they are. These bottom two are rookies. But this is that expedition group. So I'm not sure of all the rules and stuff. And Rhonda was saying that they're more of exhibition kind of thing, which makes sense to me because they're allowed to change dogs and all that. They're not part of the competitive race. But if you look at this chart, and once you kind of figure out how to read it, and I'm still working on that, you can see that some people haven't reached this checkpoint. This was at checkpoint. This might have been at Galena. This was at 7 o'clock this morning, Alaska time, 7:16:53 Alaska time. And you can see where the teams that came in, like Jesse Holmes came in and left, and he's now checked in at Nulato, which it shows right here. If I click on this, it will take us to this and tell us about Nulato. If Population 359, originally founded in 1838 at the confluence of the Nulato and Yukon rivers. Nulato was a Russian trading post. Without a stockade, the Indians promptly burned it down. In 1841, the Russian American Company rebuilt the trading post, consisting of 7 log buildings, but again without a stockade. 1851, the Koyokan Indians again burned it down and killed most of the inhabitants. In 1853, the trading post was rebuilt at the present town site, 2 miles upriver from the old site. The checkpoint is the community hall. So that's that. And let me see if it lets me out. Let me back up. So you can see, if you look across this, I'm not even going to try to read it all, but you can tell the checkpoints they're at and where they've left, what their last one was, what their current one is. And what you can tell by reading this is that these top 7 have all been here, done that, and moved on. They've either rested or they've stayed there for a few minutes and then moved on. You can see everybody in the race now has taken their 24-hour mandatory stop, and 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 have taken their 8-hour break, which is also called, I believe it's also referred to in some of these texts as the Yukon break. So once you cross or get to the river, the Yukon River checkpoint, it's about halfway, more or less, close. And then that's when once you do that, you have to take that 8-hour break. And most of the people take their 24-hour break in the early part of the race after, say, 3 or 4 days, because they want to let the dogs rest and recuperate before they get really exhausted and tired towards the end. Because they get, obviously, after they've run for 8 days or 10 days, they're going to be more worn down and tired. So they try to get them recuperated and built back up early so they don't get as tired. And I was reading that most of the mushers will feed their dogs 4 hot meals or warm meals, or, not just, cold kibble or frozen salmon, which they do use a lot. They will cook them or heat them up meals to eat 4 times during that 24-hour test period. And a lot of times they feed themselves at least 4 hot meals also, because once they hit the trail again, they're not going to be, they're not able to. Okay, Rhonda, thanks. You guys got that link if anybody's interested. I'll have to look that up too. I was trying to read more about that yesterday and today, and I wasn't getting to the right place somehow. Trivia and facts. There's a lot more about this than I'm telling, guys. I mean, I'm skimming. And while I've kind of followed it at different times and remember different people, I can remember when Susan Butcher won the first time, and which I believe is back in the 70s. And then, like I said, she won several times after that. And I can pull that list up here in a minute. But I can remember that, but I don't know the details like this. I mean, this is the most in-depth review of it I've ever seen. I didn't even know they were posting this until Rhonda mentioned it, and I started looking into it again. I don't know. You guys can't click on them because you're not at the same place, but these are the latest posts that are text, kind of like newspaper reports of what's going on and where. This eye on the trail, David's view of Ruby. I believe there are some others which aren't on this page. There's another front page when you first go into the, and I'm gonna back out and take a chance on getting back here. But I believe if you go to the Iditarod homepage, the first page, yeah, here it will tell you. Well, it's the same. We're in the same place. Jesse Holmes wins the first musher to the Yukon Award. He's won, like I said, he has won every award so far. that they give out at different checkpoints, because he's been leading from the get-go. This eye on the trail, David's view of Ruby. Let's see what this person has to say about Ruby. You can see the picture. Well, I believe this is welcoming and cheering on the mushers. Talking about a couple of photographers on the trail, capturing action along the trail with their cameras. It's a great job if you have the right clothes, a great deal of patience, and know all the tricks of the trail. I've done a little bit of photography in the cold, never this cold. So I'm what I remember about doing this in this kind of weather is they have to keep the cameras warm. The batteries and stuff won't work, or at least they won't work for very long if you don't keep them warm. So they keep them under their jackets, keep them inside their clothes, so things can stay warm and function. As cameras have gotten more modern and electronic, that's probably even more important, but I could be wrong. Maybe they function better now than they used to. Let's see. They were talking about being there when Jesse Holmes, Paige Drobny, Millie Horslid, when they all reached Ruby, this photographer was there. Now, these were kids. It said these signs were put up by kids in Ruby. And here we got Jesse's lead. This is Jesse's lead dog, Polar. And he's sitting there with a jacket on, enjoying the sunshine. That's another thing. If you watch the movie that I mentioned earlier, Iron Will, they're running. Of course, in that race, they're running at night a lot, and they hardly ever stop. But they run a lot during the night, and they rest during the day. And at these checkpoints, you can pick up bales of straw and scatter it out on the snow for the dogs to lay on. And there may be a picture here in a minute, but you'll see the dogs laying around the sled as they're resting, and they're all covered up. And they do that so that when the sun is shining on them during the day, it warms them up and keeps them warmer while they're resting. And not when, yeah, you do. You have to watch for condensation too, Rhonda. That's a good point. But they rest during the day so that the solar heat can warm them up better. And then they run at night when it's colder in this case. And it's, I guess, probably easier and better for the dogs. I mean, the dogs can overheat in cold weather if it warms up too much. And by that, I mean, like 30 or freezing, gets around freezing or zero. And they're running and the sun's shining on them. They can get too warm, especially the darker dogs. I read something about that too, about the black, the darker the dog fur, the hotter they tend to get in the sun. So, but that's his lead dog, Polar. Pretty good looking dog. Looks like they had some northern lights this week above the Yukon River at Ruby. And that's the Yukon River right there. So I guess it's frozen. I started to say I guess they cross that with a ferry, but I guess they don't. It's frozen. They can go across it on the ice, I'm sure. And this is Ruby Cliffs. That's Jesse Holmes running up along the Yukon. So he is on the water, or on the ice on the river. And he's got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 rows. I don't know if he's got dogs in all of them. And if you can see that picture, I can maybe make this bigger. Yeah, and this, if that shows up for you guys, you can see right here that he's got his front sled that he's, running between the runners or riding on the runners, and he's towing a smaller sled that's probably got, maybe where the dog food is, where he's carrying other, just other supplies, and you'll see that some of them when they first started, actually had pretty good load looking, a longer sled in the front, and then maybe sitting on a cooler box like the sled I showed you earlier, and then towing a small sled at the back with extra supplies on it. And as they get closer to the end, they'll start shedding that stuff off to make things lighter. Let's see what else we've got here. Here's Jesse Royer and Pete Kaiser and Jeff Dieter. If you look, there's three there. Can you guys? Let me make that bigger so you guys can see it better. But there's three racers right there on the river running up the ice. And that's a good shot too. I like that. I don't know this time of year. I don't know how many hours of daylight. I don't know if Donna's still here. Rhonda, you may know. Chris would probably talked about it, but I'm not sure how many hours of dark and how many hours a day they've got up there right now. Okay, Rhonda, thank you. And if you don't make it back, thanks for all your help. Let's see here. We probably got some more pictures, so let me back up to yesterday, or not to yesterday's, but here's one from here's a shot from yesterday afternoon. This is Friday evening's post on the trail. I won't read it all to you, but this is Paige Drobny when she came into, I think this was at Galena. Yeah. Yeah, this was Galena from Ruby to Galena. And Jesse Holmes got there after his 8-hour Yukon rest with 14 dogs, so he's still running most of his dogs. Paige took her 8-hour rest in Ruby, and she began her Yukon River run at 15:01 with 14 dogs. And again, the timing and how they count that, I'm not sure how they're given different times for different sections of the race, and sometimes the time is between checkpoints, and sometimes it's total time. So I'm not going to try to begin to explain all that. It's about 11 hours and 41 minutes of daylight right now, so they're just about in the middle of the year then. So spring, I guess that makes sense. We're coming up on the spring solstice, so I guess they would be, just that's a 12, and that 12 and 12. Is spring solstice a 12 hours of darkness, 12 hours of daylight? I get that mixed up. Or no, that'd be an equinox, wouldn't it? Maybe it's a spring equinox then. Okay, so let's see. I thought this was a good picture. And this one shows the dogs. You can see this is a couple of teams that have stopped along the trail, maybe near a checkpoint or maybe just past the checkpoint. They talk about some of the more experienced mushers tend to camp between checkpoints rather than at checkpoints, probably because it's less crowded, less busy, maybe not as noisy, active, because when you get to the checkpoints, if there's going to be any media coverage or people just gathering to watch, it's usually going to be at checkpoints. Out along the trail, you're not going to see as many spectators. So they stop in other places, and you can see kind of differences in sleds. This is an aluminum basket style sled. This probably is too. If you look right in here, I might be able to make this just one click bigger. Let's see. A little bit. Right in here, you can see the dogs are covered up and they're laying on that straw I was talking about a minute ago. And at the checkpoints, they supply straw and other things. Now, I don't know if the mushers have to have that, if they have to buy that and put it there for themselves before they go, or if that's supplied by the race, what do you call it, people that do the race, organizers. This sled, and maybe this one too, most of these sleds that I've looked at seem to have that secondary or that seating area, which makes sense if you're going to be running that long. If you can sit down and rest your legs a little bit, it's got to help. I see buckets and large pails, probably cooking pots here. And I see steam rising, so they're melting snow to make for water and or for cooking. And if you look over here, you can see all these critters are laying here sleeping on their straw. And it looks like she's got blankets over them, so they may have their jackets on and and blankets. I'm, I'm surprised they carry blankets because that's heavy, but because those look like wool blankets. They look like Hudson Bay type blankets to me. Over here, they're just in jackets on. I say she. I think I can't remember who. One of these is Drobny, and I can't remember who the other person is. I mean, it tells. Once I back up, it'll tell. But anyway, so that's one pic. That's from last night. That picture was taken last night, and here's another picture. This is Chad Stoddard running. He's running a team of Busser dogs, and Busser is someone who has they have a kennel and race dogs and have or sponsor their own teams, I guess. And let me pull him up just for. I mean, you can look here and see all the frost around their face, around their hoods. That's from breathing, and it all condenses around here and freezes up. And he's wearing looks like a snowmobile type suit. It's always a tricky thing in this kind of weather and doing this kind of an event to be this strenuous. To stay warm, you're either too hot or too warm. Sorry, Tim, I have to head out to drop Sam off at Epcot, but I'll be listening. Well, thanks, Donna. Thanks for coming by, and hi to Sam. And you guys have a great rest of your day. And if you're going to be on later, I'll try to stop in and watch you and Arjon make funny faces over food. I can't remember if you've got a show today or not. But if she does, Carol or somebody, would you put a link in for her for today for Donna's show? I'd appreciate it. And if you don't, I'll try to find it. If nobody's here to do it, I'll try to find it in a minute. But anyway, so these are just photographs, current photos along the trail, or these are last night's photos, but that's still pretty current. I mean, when you think about it, when this race first started, well, the '73, it wasn't that big a deal, but it wasn't anything like now. No internet. These pictures weren't available to people like us at that moment. Even in '73, it was still a long time. But can you imagine in 1925 when these guys are racing to get there to Nome, that serum, that those stories must have been taking days just to get back down to the lower 48. Let's see here. Let's look at just a few more pictures. This is Jesse Holmes right here, and he's enjoying his Yukon, what they call the Yukon meal. So being the first one there, he got to enjoy a gourmet dinner prepared by chefs from the restaurant called Locally Grown out of Anchorage. The menu included smoked salmon, crostini, white bean and bacon soup. Oh, that sounds good right now. Watercress salad, beef bourguignon, and a chocolate pot de cream dessert. And he invited Ruby, resident and longtime Iditarod volunteer, Billy Honea, to dine with him. Upon arrival, Holmes declared his 8-hour Yukon rest. I think after I eat that, I'd probably want to take a nap. And he got there with 15 dogs, albeit one of his biggest dogs was riding passenger. And somewhere I saw a picture of that, where he came into town with that one dog that was riding on the sled. He said, "This is one heck of a dog team. We just hauled a 70-pound dog here." He said he hadn't originally planned to stay in Ruby, but since he got there and he got that meal and everything, he decided he'd spend the extra day. He'd go ahead and take his 8 hours. I think I'm back up to speed. I see I had a couple of notes and I wasn't showing the slides again. Thank you, Carol, for reminding me. Um, This is that, and there's a video of this. I don't know that this is the video, but this is Takotna, I believe is the name of the town. Um, and this is where they bring out the pie. And this is the guy that brought, this is a musher. Can't remember which one it is now, but that's the musher. This is a guy from the local volunteer group who's bringing out a bag lunch for him to take on the road with him, on the trail with him, and his piece of pie. And if I can pull that video up, I will, but I don't know if you guys will be able to hear it. Maybe, hang on a minute, maybe, no, maybe I got to go back one more slide here. And then again, maybe not. Just a couple more quick pictures. This is some old mining equipment. A lot of this area was mining in years gone by. This lower picture, and I'll try to make it bigger just because it's got a lot of detail in it. This is the Cripple, what's known as the Cripple checkpoint. I don't know if that's supposed to be Cripple Creek or Cripple River or whatever, but it's kind of laid out. You can see that they've got stuff here arranged for the different for mushers. And if you'll notice, there's only a few houses and buildings here. These aren't large villages. These checkpoints, once they get out in the outback like they are now, they're not stopping in towns, big towns. Um, they're just trading posts and things of that nature. These down here we got a couple of sleds, but actually those may be snowmobile sleds. They are, and they're towing sleds, so they may be bringing in supplies. This group of blue right here that you can see in the photo, that is bales of straw and hay, and that may be what's already laid out over here on the ground too. Because I know the hay, the straw, the bales were wrapped up in blue plastic. I saw some picking them up earlier. Yeah, thank you, Carol. So anyway, well, I don't know if anybody's ever thought about running a dog sled or not, but there's a couple of the racers. This is Sam Martin and Kevin Hansen. I wish I could find that video because it was kind of funny. The guy that was commentating on the video was explaining what was going on, and he talked about them coming out. And okay, thank you, Carol. I'm about ready to shut her down anyway, so I got to see if we're going down to see Kelly or not. Anyway, they were talking about him eating the pie, and they were debating. They were trying to. They said, "Well, he's going to pack it up and take all this with him, and he'll eat it on the trail." And then they said, "Oh, no, he put the sandwich in the bag, but he's going to eat the pie right now." Like they were kind of surprised by it. I wasn't that surprised. I thought that was a good idea. I probably won't be. I probably can't find that video, and if I did, it probably wouldn't play. So there's the video of some of the dogs running last sometime since the beginning. I don't know. Can you get, just out of curiosity? Can you guys hear that? Are you getting any of the sound or just the pictures? And they're talking about him declaring his 8-hour rest and how his dogs are doing. They're checking him in basically at Galena. Dogs are ready to go again. And here's some dogs in their blue booties and their blue. Now, I didn't think you'd have sound. I can't hook it up that way. I can't bring it up that way. Uh, I didn't think you could, but you can see what's going on. Here's the straw. See the straw wrapped up in the blue. That may be straw just to designate the lanes where they come in, but they were also picking up straw like that for their dogs. So basically, what they're doing, this is at a checkpoint, and basically what they're doing is um, checking off where they're at, what time they got there, and they have to sign it and say yes. This was me. I arrived at this time, and I agree with the data you got here and all that kind of stuff. But as you can see, they're coming in the dark. Not only do you have to run in the colder time of day, or part of the 24-hour cycle, but you're having to navigate in the dark too. This lady's coming in. She says she's got 12 dogs in harness and one in the trailer. So she's pulling one dog, and they probably won't show it. But anyway, so if you go to this website, if you're interested, go to this website. You can get a lot of information here. You don't have to buy a subscription to get information. And if you want to keep up with some of it, you can get a free subscription, and you can kind of keep up with day to day stuff. You won't be at the up to date minute by minute or hour by hour updates, but you'll know day to day kind of what's going on, and and that's what this is. So anyway, that's all about the Iditarod. Probably way more about dog sled racing than you guys ever thought you'd want to know about. And there I am, brought it to you today. So there you go, guys. I think I've only got 2 or 3 people left watching, so I will close this off for the day. Thanks for being here, everybody. I really appreciate it. I don't know who's left. I don't know if the I don't know if Rhonda's still here, if she had to step away, but thanks. Thank you, Rhonda. Thanks for your help. Thanks for keeping up to date. Thanks for reminding me that this was even going on when you mentioned it a couple of weeks ago. It kicked me back into gear to I hadn't tried to follow it in a few years, so I didn't realize how much stuff was out there. But anyway, if you're interested in this sort of adventure, look into it. Pick up a good book. Read Call of the Wild. That's probably what got me started on this kind of stuff. And there's some other really good books about the Alaska and that part of the world, Canada, the Yukon, and the Northwest Territories, and the last great gold rush up there was in the early 1900s, and I mean that can be good and bad, of course. But if you're interested, look it up. Look up if you want to watch a good movie, watch Iron Will. If you can find it, Togo's a pretty good movie, and I believe there is a Balto. I'm not sure if that's the whole title or not. The Togo movie I think it's just Togo. I was reading the other day that they were in some of the bios for one of the Mushers, and I don't remember which one, had listed that his favorite movie was Iron Will, and he liked to watch it, whenever he had a chance. So if it's good enough for a musher, I guess it's good enough for me. It's supposed to be a true story, and while the events I'm sure are embellished because that's TV or movies, by and large it's true. So there you go. And I hear a lawnmower out here behind my house, which tells me it's probably about time for us to get our lawnmower out and start mowing the grass again. Winter wasn't near long enough for that regard. Anyway, guys, whoever's left out there, thank you for coming in. Thank you to everybody who came by, and I appreciate your support. Hit the like button if you or the dislike button. Let somebody know you were here, and leave a message, leave a comment, and I appreciate all that. And I'll see you guys again next Saturday, probably. Sounds like Mark might be back next week, so you just got yours back. Oh, your lawnmower. Well, ours is ready to go. I got to get it out, and I probably could use an oil change. Anyway, have a great day, everybody, and see you again next week. All I got to do is find all the buttons to hit here right now.